Okay, I think we can get started. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your day and joining us in our webinar. We're just going to leave you with the tools and the tips that you need to build an internet business case. First things first, my name's Corinne. I'm one of the account executives here at ThoughtFarmer. Joining us today is Darren, and I will let him introduce himself.
Great, thanks, Corinne. My name is Darren. I am the president of ThoughtFarmer. I have been working here at ThoughtFarmer for many years, over 15 years. And when I started ThoughtFarmer, it was founded on one simple principle, and we really wanted to try to make work better. At ThoughtFarmer, we aim to support content, communication, and culture. That's kind of the three pillars that backs ThoughtFarmer. And we've been working on it, as I mentioned, for over 15 years, software of choice for hundreds of organizations around the world, real broad mix of different industries, everything from healthcare with companies like FYI Doctors and Operation Smile to legal firms, financial like Bain Capital and BOK. So a real broad mix of different organizations from around the world. So I talked there about kind of the three main pillars there, and we're going to come back to these in this presentation. ThoughtFarmer helps employees manage knowledge, stay informed, and feel connected inside your organization. So that's really one of that's the core purpose of intranets and for ThoughtFarmer. And today, as we walk through building the business case, we're going to refer back to these pillars a couple of different times because they're really what makes a great business case.
Okay, great. So business case. Let's start with the basics. What is an internet business case? So this is a detailed document that's going to outline the justification for a new project, and in this case, the internet. It's going to help you as the project champion to educate your stakeholders, get the buy-in that you need, so when that time comes, you can get approval for the budget and the resources. The business case should provide a review of the benefit, cost, risks, and the overall feasibility of the proposed project. And you might be thinking, I've already got approval for a new intranet. Why do I need a business case? We still think it's worthwhile putting one together, even if you do have approval to move ahead with the project. It's just a good way to make sure that you're analyzing all of the risks and the costs involved. You have something to present should a new stakeholder come on board. And it also just puts everything that you have in one place, so you know where to refer to in future. We've seen many business cases over the years, and we've definitely seen some really good and strong ones. So we've kind of pulled together a few things that we think makes a great business case. The first is the most successful business cases, they align their internet goals with their organizational goals. They identify key opportunities within the company and across different teams. They've also outlined the risks, resources, and the cost of the project. And finally, they also measure how long it's going to take from start to finish. Okay, Darren.
Thanks, Corinne. So the meat of your business case is going to be focused on the opportunities. And these are really going to be the specific areas that you feel that an intranet is going to be able to help your organization. And in order to be able to put together those opportunities, there's a couple of different approaches you can go with there for that. The first one here, actually, sorry, before I get into that, I just want to talk about, I'm referring back to what I talked about there earlier. So ThoughtFarmer, again, has those three pillars. So when you're looking into opportunities where intranets can help, it's good to keep in mind the context of these three pillars around knowledge management, around communications, and around culture and community. So when you're building those pillars, when you're looking for opportunities, you want to find ones that fall into these areas here. So one potential way to uncover opportunities is to talk to your stakeholders inside your organization, understand what their core objective is, and identify ways that intranets can help those departments with what they're trying to do. So for example, here with sales, who's trying to sell a product or service, an intranet's going to help them provide up-to-date sales collateral, templates and playbooks, marketing, who's focused on brand awareness, maybe brand and editorial guideline section to talk about brand voice, identity, assets, and templates. Make that available and accessible to your employees. Customer service, maybe focus on reducing call handling times. Intranets can help by providing a structured knowledge base of previous issues and resolutions. Human resources focused on improving employee experience. Intranets can help provide a dedicated area for people to help with onboarding, provide FAQs, links to policies and forms, these types of things. So that's one approach that you can use to identify opportunities inside your organization for how intranets can help. And you're really trying to put together a catalog of opportunities here for your business case. We'll talk about how to structure those shortly. Another approach is most organizations do have some kind of intranet, some kind of knowledge management tool, something in place currently. And a good opportunity there is to just reach out through a survey and ask people about the current pains that they might have with your existing technology. So these are some examples of survey results that we've seen when people reach out to their employees, say, hey, what do you think of our current tools that we have in place? And you're going to see comments that come back like this. They're sometimes they're a little bit raw, but can be really useful to understand, where people are struggling currently. Our intranet is a dumping ground for files. Search is broken. I can't find key information. My email inbox is overflowing. So you're going to see these types of feedback when you reach out to people and ask them for some of the challenges that they're having currently with their existing tools for knowledge management, communication, and culture inside the organization. So you can take these and rather than try to turn these directly into opportunities or challenges, we do find it useful to dig a little bit further and ask why. Talk to people, keep asking why until you get answers that really are something that's a little bit more tangible. So as an example here, you might reach out and somebody says, hey, I can't use our intranet. All it is just a dumping ground for files. And ask a little bit further, why is that? Maybe contributors aren't comfortable using the intranet for authoring content. So they revert back to using document tools like Microsoft Word, put together that news post or whatever it is, and send that out to somebody there inside the organization. So really what happens here is the lack of easy to use publishing tools and running things through a bottleneck means that people only are using Microsoft Word for authoring. And it really is just being, which ladders up to that main complaint there around the dumping ground for files. So in terms of, in that case there, it's like, you may want to turn that around and capture that opportunity in a way that makes a little bit more sense for evaluating new intranet platforms. So here, when we're trying to capture that opportunity, we like to look at these 5 different parameters here. The first one here is, what is the challenge? What is the pain that people are feeling, which leads to a requirement for the new system, an expected benefit, and it should ladder up to some broader set of intranet goals, and ideally, as Corinne mentioned earlier, ladder up to organizational goals there as well. So here's an example of how you might capture an opportunity for your business case. So you can see here, this is focused on the knowledge management pillar that we talked about. The challenge here is that users avoid the intranet because content mostly consists of files, making search and browsing difficult. So the requirement that addresses this challenge is that the new system must make it easy to create and organize content in a variety of formats. Now, the benefit that's going to come from this is that with the new intranet, we have simple publishing tools that are put in the hands of domain experts, making it easy for them to create content. This follows to our intranet goal here to give employees a central source for information so that users can deliver top-notch customer service, which is part of our corporate goal of providing exceptional customer support. So that's a good example there of potentially how we can capture that opportunity. So what you want to try to do here is go back to that list of opportunities that you identified both through stakeholders and through direct feedback and capture these into your business case here as a series of opportunities with these challenge, requirement, benefit, goal, intranet goal, and organizational goal. And that's really going to form the bulk of your business case there that hopefully will give people a good understanding of the challenge that's being faced by the organization today and how things are going to be better with that new intranet. Now, a key thing here is when you're putting together opportunities is if you can try to capture some type of a metric or information about this goal. And ideally, if you can do any kind of baseline, you can really make this a lot stronger. So this is where we talk about measurement being very important here for measuring your outcomes against business objectives. So ideally, your business case should contain measures and KPIs that track the impact of these opportunities, set some targets, and in the case where you can, baseline your current performance and set targets for future projects. So here's what this might look like here for the same example around knowledge management. So we're looking here now, if our intranet is primarily being run through a single user, we want to try to broaden that so more people are contributing. So a key KPI that we want to look at here is going to be the percentage of employees generating content and the mix of content types that they're using. So if we come through here and say, okay, we're going to baseline our current intranet, this is just sample data that we used from a previous project that we worked on here. So from January 1st to June 30th, there was 211 items that were added to the intranet. 30% were news posts and 70% were just file attachments, and everything was run through a single contributor. So the goal with the future ThoughtFarmer intranet across the same 6-month period would be 500 items added, so over 100% increase, and a broad mix there of news, page content, and files, but a big reduction of file attachments. And the other key goal there is that 50% of employees are creating or contributing content. So a big increase in contributors to the intranet, not just centralizing everything in one place. So that's some examples there of how you can kind of kick your business case up to the next notch by using metrics.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks, Darren. So now we've done the bulk of the business case. We're going to take a step back and look at the broader considerations that you should be including. So the first consideration is the project resources. So this is who's going to be involved from your organization and the different phases of the new intranet. So the first phase we have is the implementation stage. So there are 3 key roles here. The first is the project sponsor. So this is the main person who owns the internet project at your organization. This usually falls under the communications or a senior exec, and they're kind of like overseeing the project, getting it ready for launch. The second key person is the key project coordinator or a project manager. This could also be the internet admin, which I'll get on to the next slide. And they are set to oversee the launch. They're responsible for coordinating resources, as well as the communication between the vendors and the stakeholders. Then finally, we have IT. They are typically involved for a brief moment in this stage. They're going to help integrate with internal services and ensure that the platform is compliant with any internal regulations. And then as we move through to the launch phase, we're going to see a shift in who's involved with managing the intranet. So I previously mentioned the internet admin. They might be involved in the implementation stage, but they're definitely going to be involved in the post-launch. They're going to be responsible for running a smooth, secure, and successful intranet and making sure that the intranet is going to help you reach those intranet goals and company goals. They will have full control over the intranet, anything from branding, user access, to determining what content is featured on the intranet. Then we have the internet champions. So among your colleagues, they're going to be power users, or what we call internet champions. They're typically from different departments. They're provided with training on how to best use the internet within their teams, and they will share that training with their colleagues. And these are your internet advocates, so you want to have these on your side. Often at this stage, the IT and the project sponsor will take a step back, but it's just good to consider how much they will involve after that launch. Now, getting onto the cost, there's definitely going to be stakeholders in your group who are mainly interested in that bottom line and the financial side of the internet. But when you share the pricing, you also want to be highlighting the return on investment. So your business case should estimate the amount of money you need for the project. This is going to cover the license fees, and you also need to understand the payment terms. Now, each vendor definitely has a different way in how they provide support. So here at ThoughtFarmer, we include a lot of support and implementation support in the license fee. But there is also an opportunity to work with our professional services team. They add a great amount of value to a project, but they do come at an additional cost. So it's good to understand what's included and what is an additional fee. So as mentioned, it's always good to include the financial benefits of investing in an intranet. A few common examples here. We often see a reduced cost in IT support. So instead of people reaching out to IT for help with the current intranet, your new intranet is going to be so easy to use that the IT team no longer have to spend time dealing with intranet support. They can actually spend time doing work on their other projects. Intranets definitely help increase employee productivity. So you're now going to be able to provide the information that employees need to do their jobs. So instead, you're going to be paying them to do their job instead of paying them to find the information that they need. And finally, intranets can play a huge part in employee engagement and retention. So hopefully with the intranet, you'll see a reduced turnover rate, and therefore the cost of hiring is going to decrease on a regular basis. There is definitely risk involved in every project, including intranets. But at your risk management stage, you should be identifying and analyzing the project risks, as well as creating strategies to overcome these. There are lots of risks involved, but we've just highlighted 3 most common ones that we see. The first being scope creep. So this can happen when more and more people get involved, and then there are more requirements added to the list. And therefore, this is just going to snowball into an unachievable and expensive project. When you have a plan in place, you may start to realize that you have limited resources. So this is going to extend the length of the project, increase the workload for the team. So it's just good to consider how you can overcome this and prevent this from becoming a barrier to launch. And finally, there is a risk of doing nothing. So changing nothing, keeping things how they are. But if you go back to your original objectives that you outlined, and you can see how each department can be impacted by having a new intranet, you can also start to consider how each team could be affected by not having an intranet and what this would look like in a year's time. Now, the last item that you want to include in your business case is a project plan. So this is a formal document designed to guide and control the project. It outlines the scope of work, the schedule, the responsibilities, important milestones, and this is going to act as a basis of communication. And it's important to have this to gain management support. If this feels overwhelming, don't fear. We are experts in launching intranets, and we do have a team who are able to help you through each stage of the intranet project. Alrighty, Darren.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Corinne. So now you've got all the different elements of the business case, and the last step here is basically to put it all together. So this is just a sample table of contents that what your final business case might look like. Executive summary providing an overview of the overall business case, description of the project. The opportunities is really like what we talked about there is the meat of your business case here, and so should have a lot of key opportunities and benefits that you're going to be realizing with this new project. The cost and benefit analysis that we outlined there earlier, just a high-level risk assessment. We don't have to go too deep on this, but just to identify that these are potential risks and the mitigation strategies to help address them. Resource requirements, the implementation plan, and then finally the recommendation. So it does sound like there's a decent amount of work here, but generally speaking, we see these being able to put together over a week or two with a little bit of revisions, but really helps to keep the project going forward successfully. And if you want some more materials on that, we do have a great white paper. It's kind of the base of this webinar here as well too. It's called Building an Intranet Business Case, Step-by-Step Guide to Ensuring the Best Possible Outcome for Your Intranet Project. And everybody here that signed up to this webinar, you will be getting a link to download this, and we're happy to work with you and talk to you through it. And that's it. That's our presentation here. Hopefully, we've shown you how a well-constructed business case can provide decision makers with the information that they need to understand the value, the feasibility, and the risks of your new intranet, and hopefully allowing them to make the informed choice about investing time in the project and approving it and going ahead. So that is the end of our presentation. If there are any questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature there within Zoom. We've got some time here, a few minutes.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one is, will the recording be sent as a follow-up? And yes, it will. So you'll receive the white paper and the recording of this. So feel free to share that. We also have two other questions. Who are the most important stakeholders?
Yeah, most important stakeholders. That's a good question. I'd say, I mean, we've done hundreds of different implementations of intranets over the years, and I would say project sponsor, like the executive sponsorship for it, would be very high in my mind, just in terms of having a strong sponsor there in place, because they really help to remove barriers, remove roadblocks, and the most successful projects to have that kind of executive sponsorship on it. The next one that I would say would probably be the intranet administrator or key project manager. Again, if there's somebody there in the organization that is leading that project forward, they don't have to be the ones that are creating the content or contributing to it, but those organizations that have that role inside do seem to be the most successful, in that they're have somebody there with a strong vision for the intranet and is able to push it forward. Find the right resources to put to the project and make it successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last question here is, in your experience, how long does it take to launch an intranet? So from the moment you make your decision through to launch.
Yeah, no, we would typically see, it's a good question. It comes up a lot, especially early on. And like any type of project question, it really is, it depends on the organization. Some companies, they come to us and they've got intranets with existing intranets with hundreds of thousands of pieces of content on it, and they need to migrate that over. That's going to be a very large implementation project. But generally speaking, most organizations that have some existing content, maybe spread across some tools like SharePoint, they want to migrate to ThoughtFarmer. We would typically see, I'd say, 3 months or so for an implementation from start to launch. Plus or minus 1 month. So kind of 2 to 4 months, I think, would probably be what we'd say there.
Okay, awesome. And one more has just come in, so I think we've got time to answer this. Is there a different approach for an organization that has never had an intranet and doesn't necessarily understand the value of the investment?
I do think that I definitely in some cases there is. So we talked there earlier about identifying opportunities, and one of the examples I said was to use the existing intranet, talk about the pains there to identify opportunities. Obviously, if there is no existing intranet, there's not those types of there's not something there to refer back to. But definitely by focusing, I'd say, on a department level. So I listed off earlier there in the presentation. We showed the slide there where we talked about the benefits of an intranet by team, by department. And using that to help guide the opportunities. I think that is a very good approach for organizations that don't have an existing intranet in place. So as a way, and that also, what I like about that as well too, is it helps to kind of paint a picture for people. So it's like, if you're talking to people, it's like, well, why should I care about this intranet? It's like, well, you know, you're in marketing. Wouldn't you love it if everybody was using our font and our logo correctly in any of their materials? And it's like, you can do that with, you know, having all the brand guidelines on the internet. That starts to make it more real for people. Similarly for HR with like onboarding tools, or sales with sales materials, contracts, what have you. Those types of benefits become more real if you can use it in the language that people are doing. So I do think this approach, the business case approach, is still useful for those types of organizations. And it does help communicate that value to stakeholders. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have. So I think we can wrap up. So thank you everyone for taking time today. And thank you, Darren, for co-hosting this. And we'll see you at the next one.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone.